So last week, Nintendo announced the Nintendo Switch OLED edition, and while it may have not lived up to everybody's expectations of a new Pro model Switch, it is still a new addition to the long line of Nintendo systems. And while not everybody may be excited about it, I am, so I thought today would be a perfect day to rank all of Nintendo's home line systems, starting all the way back from the NES all the way up to the Switch. As we rank the systems today, I will only be talking about the main family of systems. So for example, like the Wii Mini, I won't be ranking that alongside all of them. It'll just be the family line of Wii systems. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, as we go through the systems, I'll try and be unbiased when it comes to different systems, but of course these are my opinions, so if you disagree with any of my rankings, go ahead and leave a comment below and tell me why you believe that maybe something should be ranked differently. Anyways, let's get on with it. Alright, so coming in 7th place is the Wii U. And while this may seem like a low jab, seeing that everybody hates on the Wii U, the Wii U is not a bad system. It's just the worst out of the Nintendo systems, which is really a big thing to say when you look back at all the Nintendo systems, that not one of them is terrible. But the Wii U did fail. It had some great games like Nintendo Land, Mario Kart 8, which is still being sold on the Nintendo Switch this very day, and is the #1 selling game on the Switch. You had Splatoon 1, which at the time was a big win for Nintendo. They got a new strong IP on a system where nothing could really go right for them. And of course, you had Super Mario 3D World, which is a highly underrated game. Unless you watch this channel a lot, then you're probably tired of hearing about it. It had some great features like being the first Nintendo system to include HD graphics. The gamepad, which turned a lot of people off, but was actually used in very creative ways throughout the system's lifespan. It had backwards compatibility with the Wii and had virtual consoles, so if you're looking to play basically any game up to that point except for Gamecube games, it was basically on the Wii U. It had a really nice UI, and it had off TV mode, which was kind of a precursor to what the Nintendo Switch would become. And it also had an NFC reader for amiibos, which was a really cool addition to the system. But if we're being honest, it was just a failure. It had bad advertising, people thought it was an add-on to the Wii, and a bunch of dumb decisions really led to this becoming number 7 on this list. But, of course, it is not a bad system. It had great games, and honestly, I had a lot of fun playing it back in the day, so don't overlook the Wii U, guys. Next up is the Gamecube, and Gamecube is an incredible system. It had games like Super Mario Sunshine, which is my favorite Mario game, Super Smash Bros. Melee, which is still played in tournaments to this very day, Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, which at the time many people kind of were worried about because they wanted the new Majora's Mask or new Ocarina of Time, but when you go back and look at it, really good game. And Luigi's Mansion, which was a really cool new spin on the Mario format, with Luigi taking the lead and going through a whole different theme and gameplay. Features, it was the first time Nintendo had a C-Stick, which was awesome. Also the first time Nintendo used discs, which was nice, but also they were kind of small and it was kind of awkward. It was an awkward stage for Nintendo for sure, but it was nice to have that. Memory cards, and it also had a handle on the system, so I guess technically it's portable? I don't know. I'd never understood the handle. But its legacy is a system that had some great games. It's basically the Nintendo system where it's like, alright, it's a Nintendo system. There was no real gimmick to like separate it from anything else. It's like basically an upgraded N64, but it just didn't have the sales. It was basically a low point for Nintendo, but games-wise, incredible system, would not overlook whatsoever. Alright, I know this one's going to shock a lot of people out there, but coming in at number 5 is the NES. It was an amazing system that saved the video game market in the West, and really brought Nintendo into the spotlight. It really Trojan horsed its way into people's homes using things like Rob and the Zapper, but after it got into the household, they came out with some banger games like Super Mario Bros., Super Mario Bros. 3, Legend of Zelda 2, Adventure of Link, Duck Hunt, Excite Bike, Donkey Kong, so many fantastic games. It really set a quality standard for what a video game should be, and it basically killed off arcades. It's at number 5 basically because the games don't hold up as well nowadays. Still amazing games, and I hate judging consoles off of, oh, they're old, but that's basically its only knock. If I was an 80s kid and that was the games I had back in the day, I would be super, super impressed. I still love playing NES games to this very day. Also, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out is one of my favorite games of all time, so, I couldn't put it that low. But it started a legacy of fantastic consoles and games, and video games wouldn't be the same without it. Now, here we are at number 4, smack dab in the middle, and we have the N64. It was the first Nintendo console to have 3D graphics in games. It had 4 controller ports, so you could play games with up to 4 people, which games like Mario Kart and Mario Party super took advantage of. It was also the first Nintendo console to have a joystick, which was a really, really big innovation for the time. The N64 had fantastic games like Mario 64, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, introduced Super Smash Bros., Banjo-Kazooie, GoldenEye, which really brought first-person shooters into the limelight, and Paper Mario. It really is incredible looking at the N64 and seeing how they knocked a lot of these games out of the park, even though it was their first 3D console. It's incredible how they managed to move these games from 2D to 3D, and for basically nothing to go wrong. Yeah, the graphics were not great, but, it really was an incredible console. The only cons about it, I'd have to say, are the graphics really didn't look that great. They didn't really figure out the camera controls yet, and it was the first Nintendo console to lose its generation. It did not sell as well as Sony, and they had to play catch up for many, many years to get back to a point where they were on par with Sony. Although it did have some issues, N64 is a top tier system, and I couldn't imagine a world without it. Now we are in the top 3, and before I say anything, I just want to say that all 3 of these consoles are peak Nintendo, and I'm just so grateful that we have all of these. So anyways, number 3 is the Super Nintendo. I don't even know what to say. The games on the system are just impeccable. Super Mario World, my favorite 2D Mario game of all time. Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, many say is the best 2D Zelda game of all time. Yoshi's Island, which was a great spin on the Mario format. Super Metroid, people say the best 2D Metroid game. Earthbound, I can keep going. There are just so many fantastic games on the system. The fact that they were able to make all these fantastic games on this system it's just insane. The console had 16-bit graphics, which not bad for the time, and it was the first Nintendo console to have 4 letter buttons and shoulder buttons, which is just amazing. When you look back at controllers, it's basically the prototype for what all controllers become in the future. So it really was just an amazing, amazing console. I know you guys have been waiting for this one, so at number 2 is the Nintendo Switch. I don't know. I had a real tough time putting this above the Super Nintendo. But it's everything you want in a Nintendo console. It's just so good. You got Super Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Splatoon 2, Smash Ultimate. It's got everything. And the handheld home console Switch mechanic was just brilliant. It was able to become Nintendo's second best-selling console only 4 years into its lifespan, which is just incredible. And while it has many problems, like the Joy-Cons and the online system and the UI being so boring, I think it's going to make up for it in the next few years with all the games coming out. I really don't see a situation where it's not number 2. And if you guys disagree, please tell me in the comments below, but I think the Switch might be on the way to number 1. Speaking of number 1, I don't think this was in question, especially for me. The Wii is number 1 Nintendo console of all time. It was everything you wanted in a Nintendo console. It had the games, the new features, such as motion controls, a great UI, probably #1 UI in all of Nintendo's lifespan. Had Mii's, backwards compatibility, virtual console, first Nintendo console to have online, even though it was kind of terrible. There's nothing that compares to it. It's Nintendo's comeback, and while it didn't last forever, seeing what happened next with the Wii U, when you just look at these games, Mario Galaxy 2, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, Wii Sports Resort, there's just nothing that compares. It's #1 in my book, it's #1 in many people's book, and if we ever get a console that is able to replicate the Wii's success, then it's going to be the Switch. So anyways, let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Did you agree with my rankings? Did you not? Did you think they were terrible? What would you change? Anything else? And anyways, this is Mac from the Switch Stop signing out. Peace.